the most tremendous new musical experience you can have.
Yeah, like I said, just if it could have been more engaging, really good story. That's what's really holding it up here. But it's not one that I can say I want to listen to all the time or I really want to go back to all the time. Like, yes, I'm sure I will go back to it because the story's amazing, really worth listening to. But when am I gonna be in the mood for it? Very, very rarely, because it's just not fun to listen to, you know. And I hate to break it down into how fun a project is, but it has to have some enjoyment factor for me to want to go back to it. Like, what's a Pimp a Butterfly? It's not always the highest energy, but my God, those jazz influences. And then it does have some energy. It has some cadence, some flows that are enjoyable, despite how dark and depressing the message can be sometimes. Outside of songs like "All Right" and "I." Um, but again, very solid project, very enjoyable. 7 out of 10, very solid rating. Make sure to check out this album if you haven't. Hit the like button, comment, and sub. Hit the bell next to my name for notifications. Share this video so your friends can check it out. I appreciate y'all, and I will hit y'all up next time. Alright, what's up, y'all? It's Logan, and I'm here today to give you this review to this newest Ka album called Descendants of Cain. But before I get into that review, I just gotta talk about what's been on my mind. All y'all know about the murder that just took place, George Floyd. I just want to put this out to say I didn't want to make a video about it. I didn't want to put it in my tags or anything like that because I don't want to look like I'm clout chasing or anything like that. I'm not trying to get famous off of a tragedy or nothing like that. That's why I'm just saying it in this context so that no one clicks on this for that reason. But those of you who are clicking on this for review, I'll get to that in just a second. I'll just make this a short little blurb, but I just want to make sure y'all understand, like, this is a tragedy and it has to stop happening. Like, it's been going on for too long now. A lot of people have been blind to it. A lot of people that look like me have been blind to it. I can't even go so far as to say I haven't been blind to it because I'm sure, like, when I was younger, did I recognize this stuff? No, not all the time. And what it's going to take is people who look like me to give voice to people who are oppressed. Give up that which we are born with to those who have to fight for it, so that change can come about. We have to attack this at a systemic level first, because a lot of people just think, oh, if you want racism to go away, you just have to choose to be a good person. But the issue is there's a lot of problems in the government that just make these issues continue to where people of a non-white race have less opportunity to rise up. Almost like they're born with a leg down already. Exactly like that, actually. So change needs to come about. Reformation, reparations, all of that. And to my friends, because I grew up in a rural area in the South, can't tell by my accent, to my friends who might be watching this, if your first reaction is to look for a reason as to why this happened to explain away your discomfort, look at yourself and ask yourself why. Why do I feel that way? Because when you see a video of a man being killed and you see no proof, like, there is no explanation as to why a man might be killed, unless maybe his crime, unless he was robbing the store that he was in and pointed a gun at the police, or just mass murdering people, unless he goes into a church and shoots 9 people. Yes, you know exactly what I'm referring to when I say that. Then he should not have had a death sentence for potentially writing a bad check. That's ridiculous. So ask yourself why. Why do you feel the need to attack a group that's already down? Why do you feel the need to explain away and say, well, if you hadn't done the crime, what kind of non-violent, non-threatening crime comes with a death sentence? Even if he was dealing drugs, that doesn't come with a death sentence unless he points a gun at the police and takes a shot. So, pray for the family. Do what you can to influence change. That's just, I'll get off of my soapbox now and get on with this review. So, like I was saying, Ka, Descendants of Cain. 11 songs, 33 minutes. Ka is a lesser known rapper who's been around for a bit. He's actually he's a firefighter. He actually rose to some higher ranks up in there and made some headlines where people were talking about, you know, this is a firefighter. He serves our community. He serves America, and yet he talks bad about racial injustices and the police and stuff like that, despite working side by side with them in some cases. So that is an interesting tidbit about him. He has a lot of very deep projects, including, I believe, his most recent one, Honor Killed the Samurai, where he uses the samurai to represent tension and survival tactics today. And this album continues that, again, with the Descendants of Cain, obviously Cain being from the Bible. I love the idea of a biblical story being applied to today. Cain being the one that was, well, Cain being a child of Adam and Eve and the brother of Abel. Everyone knows the story of Cain and Abel. If you don't, Cain becomes jealous whenever they present offerings to God. God loves and appreciates Abel's offering. Not specifically because of what it was, but because of the heart that he presented it with, whereas Cain presented it with pride and God did not appreciate it. So he becomes jealous and kills his brother. And so that's what's going on in this story, and I'll break that down, kind of going track by track a little bit. I'll try to make it quick, though, since I had that long discussion at the beginning. Now, so the pros about this one, it's a great, engaging story, amazing imagery and storytelling. He has a lot of great lyricism. He's an amazing writer, and it does enough to keep you engaged. And that's a good thing, because the cons of this one is that it's kind of a low-energy project. Yes, it is a darker album with some deep content, so that makes sense, but to present it in a little bit more, like, with a little bit better beats, perhaps, with a little bit more cadence to his flow and to his tones, it sounds a little monotonous at times, you know. Again, that doesn't, like, go over my head that this is a bleak, monotonous story, kind of similar to that of some rap songs, but again, stuff like that could be presented in a more engaging way to keep you more into the project. I just feel like a lot of people can listen to this and just clock out, because, I mean, this is very intellectual stuff, so a lot of it's going to go over your head anyways. So you need something to keep you engaged to go back for multiple listens to be able to get through and actually understand this one. So that's what I will say is the con on this. So I'll go track by track now, just breaking them down really quick. So the intro track, Every Now and Then, it's a more personal story describing how life is inconsistent. Sometimes it can be great, sometimes it can be horrible. It really breaks down how the poor are born with nothing and are given less opportunity than those who are born with more. You know, if you're born with more, you have a higher chance to rise higher as well. You have a higher potential, whereas if you're born with nothing, there's a solid chance you'll stay there. Move on into Unto the Dust. And this focuses on the violence and death that Ka saw growing up, obviously, in the ghetto. And this, again, works in comparison, obviously, with the Bible verse talking about being born out of the dust, and unto the dust you will return. So, again, kind of breaking down that being born with nothing, going back to nothing, never amounting to anything. Follow that up with Patron Saints, where it talks about the harmful examples set by his role models. You know, a lot of his role models in his community, his family, his stuff like that, being that they couldn't make money to support their family. They were forced to sell drugs and such as that. Obviously, growing up in poverty, sometimes that's the only opportunities you have, so you have to settle in on that. And that is the unfortunate truth that goes along with being raised in the ghetto. After that comes My Brother's Keeper, which obviously that is actually a line that Cain used, where he says he isn't his brother's keeper after Abel is found to be missing. Obviously he's missing from being murdered by his brother, but that's the argument he makes. And this refers to just being responsible for someone and not wanting that responsibility, especially if you do something dark to them. This beat has a very dark overtone, and honestly, it's one of the standout beats on this album. It's one of the more engaging beats. Like I said, this album isn't very engaging aside from the story, so whenever you find that is an extreme positive. After that comes Solitude of Enoch, and this is one of the more titular tracks, bringing out the comparison of America's ghetto violence, the ghetto's cycle of violence, especially comparing that with the initial murder of Abel by Cain. Note on this song, Enoch is the son of Cain, and he was sent into exile with Cain, obviously because of the sins of the father go down the line. The second verse on here sees a beat switch with a more hopeful message, though, with the idea of rising above the violence and the proclamation to turn the other cheek. However, we're not done with the album yet, so that idea is not lost completely yet. Follow that up with The Eye of a Needle. This just describes how difficult it is to live right for God, and compares that with how difficult it is to provide for those you love, specifically growing up in a more poor system. Again, comparing it with the sacrifices given to God, him being happy with Abel's and displeased with Cain, leading to the dispute. So yeah. After that comes Pray, which is just presenting a prayer to please receive any yield. Obviously, please receive any yield, P-R-A-Y. It's just asking for a break from this violence and disparity given to those born in the poor situations. And that is followed up by Land of Nod, where that's where Cain was exiled to the land of Nod, and how many are exiled and stuck in the ghetto and stuck in the violence that has perpetuated their entire lives. After that comes Sins of the Father, which again, them being considered descendants of Cain in this ideology, is just saying how they're stuck down due to his sins, and that just perpetuates throughout them because it's all they've ever known. Because of what he did, leading down the line to where they buy into the violence against brothers and sisters, against their siblings, against themselves within their own community. It's the idea that they don't deserve that punishment from their father's sins, and yet they still receive it. After that comes Old Justice, which describes an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, which in that case, that is comparable to what he says the ghetto sees Old Justice as, where, yes, you have eye for eye, tooth for tooth, but you also have, just if you get disrespected, that can lead to death, to where a lot of the times the reaction is greater than the action. And after that, he ends the track on a very positive note with the song I Love, in parentheses, me, Mom's, Kev. And each verse is dedicated to someone that he loves very deeply. His wife, his mom, and his brother. His brother being unfortunately passed away now, but each of them get their own verse. And this is helping to break the cycle of violence, showing the love that anyone is capable of having, and how that can help to break that cycle, because everyone has that person, everyone has those people, everyone has family, everyone has friends that they love. So if you can all hold on to that and realize that everyone has that, you don't want to take that away from anybody. So that's an important message. So overall, this is a very deep message with, again, great writing. It's a fantastic way of exploring the topic. Like I said, his flow can get monotonous, the beat's not very engaging a lot of the times, which don't help the situation. But if you listen closely and you're able to pick up to the overall message, because again, it's going to take multiple listens. This is a very intellectual project. Yeah, it has a great message that you can pick up on. It's one that has been presented before, but not in this way at all. This is a very unique way of presenting it. Obviously, we all know the violence that goes on within the ghettos and within the system like that, and how it's perpetuated, how they have a leg down compared to those higher up. But this is a very unique way of presenting it, saying that it all started from the very beginning, from the story of Cain and Abel. That's a great way of breaking it down and comparing it to something that a lot of people who maybe don't understand systemic racism and violence within the ghetto, those people are often going to be the people who do understand the story of Cain and Abel. Not to make any generalizations, obviously, because I am a very strong devout Christian, and I do understand, to a degree, the ideas of systemic racism and such. Not going to say that I have an amazing, pronounced understanding of it, because I've never been through it. I've never been subject to it, so there's only so much I can understand without experience. I only have secondhand experience, anecdotal knowledge, and research. So, but getting off of that topic, overall, this is just a really solid album that, again, would have benefited from a more lively presentation. I'm thinking in the idea of like how IDK with his song, with his album Is He Real, how he presented those with booming beats, engaging, almost aggressive flows and stuff like that. But again, that's not Causeway, so I understand that he stayed within his wheelhouse. I just wish he would have been a little bit more engaging on this one. It can make for a boring listen. You really have to be in the mood to listen to this one. But if you are and if you understand it, you are going to enjoy this one. Overall, the rating that I'm going to go with here is a very solid 7 out of 10.